Hello and welcome to the first episode of this podcast. We have yet to name it, so you can see below what it's actually called. I am your host, Bryce, and we have our co-host, Luke, over here.
Hello, hello, hello.
So today we are going to be talking about root factions and the lore behind them. We will be covering Marquise de Cat, Eerie Dynasty, and Woodland Alliance, and maybe the Corvid Conspiracy, the Underground Duchy, the Riverfolk Company, and the Lizard Cult, my favorite faction.
That is your favorite faction.
It is my favorite.
Don't forget about the Vagabond, Bryce. We'll be touching on that at the
We'll
end.
be touching on it, but it's like a
Yeah,
half faction.
it has some special and unique characteristics.
Yeah, for the lore. It's very unique, just like it is in the game.
Yeah.
So, let's get into it.
All right. Let's start with the Marquise de Cat. First faction that everyone looks at.
Oh, also, quick little thing about root lore. Pretty much nothing except for like a few things are set in stone. So about half the stuff we talk about is going to be what we think is the lore, and about the other half is going to be actual lore, mainly taken from dev design diaries and the root RPG. So, Marquise de Cat. Marquise de Cat, we know, are like a separate, massive government, kind of like how the Duchy are a massive underground government, and they're kind of
Yeah.
in the woodland, taken over, industrializing into
Yeah.
their new industrial stronghold.
I never knew this, but apparently the Marquise de Cat are actually led by the Marquise de Cat.
Yeah, the Marquise de Cat. Nothing is like really known about Marquise de Cat besides that Marquise de Cat is a female. So because that's just because they describe her as she. In general, like Marquise, they just want to industrialize the woodland. A fun fact about most root faction lore, I think except for like a few factions, most of them use mainly woodland forces. So Marquise de Cat will have a few like actual cats in the army, but the majority of it will be made out of woodland creatures like bunnies, foxes, and rabbits, and mice, and even some like birds from the Eerie Dynasty that they've taken over, which is kind of interesting.
Defectors.
Defectors, yeah. Like
Everyone,
even Eerie will take Marquise warriors.
everyone except the Woodland Alliance, which is only made of the local creatures.
Yeah, which is kind of a interesting thing. I bet the Lord of Hundreds probably don't take the other horses.
Yeah, that's true. They probably stick with their own.
They're probably
The whole thing is
rats and
racism,
ogre
so
yeah, they don't play well with others. So, all right. So Marquise de Cat. Okay,
yeah.
that's official lore. What do we think Marquise de Cat lore is? They're pretty simple, so let's see. What
Yeah, they're a fairly simple faction to play in the game.
Yeah.
Compared to a lot of the other DLC factions.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Marquise, they probably just want to just use the woodland. Once they used all the resources, they're probably just going to move on to the next forest.
Yeah, probably. They're probably like just an industrial just machine. They just churn through, cut down all the trees, take all the wood,
I
craft
wonder
what they
what
need,
like
and leave.
the Marquise capital is. It's probably like all just industrial. It's probably like New York City or something.
And it's like New York, but instead of around it, it's just like cut down forests.
Yeah.
Clearly, the Marquise de Cat have not heard of global warming.
Or it might just be like their owner's house.
That's true.
That's pretty industrialized.
It could just be that.
Okay. And in the base game, we have the direct other militant force, the Eerie Dynasty.
Oh.
So we know that the Eerie Dynasty were like the biggest force, and they were the first force in the woodland. So there's no one before them.
Keyword is were.
Yeah, were. Pretty much stuff went down, and you know the four like leaders?
Yeah.
I think they were all like within war of each other, and then they just started like ripping apart the force
I
until
wouldn't be surprised. the cats showed up, and
until
then
the
they were
cats
like,
showed up when they
"Hang
were
on."
all in combat, and then they had to be like stuck up and work together to defeat the cats.
Yeah.
Or
That's why they have such a specific decree when one of them is leading.
yeah,
None of them trust each other.
that's only why one's in power at the time. If they all worked together, they'd be a menace.
That's true.
The worst of them's probably the like the most malicious. It's gotta be the builder.
Oh,
Like there's something malicious about him. You just know. You might think he's the peaceful captain. No, something bad's going on. Yeah.
I personally think it's the what's his name?
Well, we got the eagle, which is the charismatic leader.
No. He's pretty chill. I think he's a pretty chill dude.
I
He's
think
just
he's
a very
chill, dude.
charismatic, very good at making army recruitment videos. That's what he's good
That's
at.
true. That's true. We also have the despot or despot, which is the vulture. I mean, you can never really trust the vulture. And then we've got the commander, which is the owl.
That one, the
The
commander. I don't
commander.
trust him. He's
Whenever I
too
play Eerie, I
militant.
play commander because I just
I
don't
know,
like.
but
Yeah,
he's good in the game, but I don't trust him. He's literally holding the knife. He's holding it.
a
He's
lot of
ready to
people don't
unsheath
like
it.
the commander because just the other ones are better. But I personally like the commander because you can just, if anyone comes at you, you can kind of hold the commander over their head and be like, yeah, you can attack me, but I'll hit back harder.
Yeah, you really do love to do that.
Yeah. Pretty much they lost all of their soldiers in a civil war, which is why they're not nearly as strong as they used to be. Something I do think though, I've told you about this, the keepers in iron.
Ah, the headcanon.
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Our
headcanon.
entire table agrees with that headcanon though,
It,
so
it does. It's gotta be true. Would you like to inform people about it?
yeah, so we think that the Keepers in Iron used to work for the Eerie,
Yeah.
and then they had a falling out and they got kicked out of the forest, but they got kicked out violently and had to leave their stuff. And so in the game they've now come back to claim their stuff. And they were like the Erie's like Praetorian Guard, the best of the best fighting force. And so when they got kicked out, the Eerie just fell apart.
Yeah,
And
they had no chance of defending against the Marquise. If
yeah,
if they had the keepers, I think the Marquise would be done. Especially because keepers are like this is keepers without armor. Keepers with armor and like fully kitted out, if they weren't
oh, that's
exiled, would
true.
be crazy.
Yeah, and they'd be in greater numbers as well,
Yeah, a
because
lot
they
greater.
wouldn't,
Because they're not just like knights. They're
they
a
wouldn't,
full
they,
force.
yeah, they might not have to resort to cannibalism.
Yes, that's true. They might have somewhere to actually like live and eat.
Yeah, not just, oh no, there's way too many of us here. Who's gonna be dinner?
Yeah, that's a bit unlike knight chivalry. I
Yeah, a
heard
bit
that like knight
extreme.
chivalry, the reason they invented knight chivalry is because knights thought they could just do whatever they wanted. Like they just go in, take
I
everything,
mean,
and so they had to invent knight chivalry and like gentleman chivalry to teach knights that that's wrong and you can't just
they had
do
to, they
that.
had to, they had to make knights a bit more respectful.
Yeah, and that's why now knights are viewed as like incredibly respectful and all that stuff.
I mean, it was clearly very effective.
Clearly. I mean, stuff probably went down, but yeah. And then we have the one and only Woodland Alliance, which are.
Out of the two of us, I've played the Woodland Alliance more.
You
Out of the
have
base
played the
game
Woodland.
factions, I
Yeah.
play the Woodland Alliance the most. Out of the base game
Out of the
factions.
base game factions, if it weren't for Rocco, I'd play the Eerie Dynasty the most. But he is
But
so much of an Eerie Dynasty player.
mm,
Incredibly so. So I guess I
yeah,
play Marquise. I mean, I do play the Marquise out of all of us. Because no one
you
likes
you
Marquise.
do.
For
No one
context,
plays
we
them.
don't really need Marquise because we play in like 5+ player count games. So
Yeah, we have a pretty big table.
we have pretty big reach on our table, so
Yeah,
we
we
don't
don't
need
need the Marquise for map control in the
Marquise
early
usually
game,
get tabled when we're playing them.
or or at least pushed back to like three
just their feet.
clearings.
But the Woodland Alliance, someone very good at our table because they can just kind of pop up everywhere.
Yeah,
And
it's so fun. Bryce hates me for it, but
I
it's
know
so fun.
people just run through them over and over again to rack up those sympathies, and I'm just like, no.
It's because I put them in like spots that they have to run through.
The statistically like most traveled through clearings.
Yeah, I've done the math. No, I thought those were the three most traveled clearings,
Yeah, and
and
I'm
they
just
turned out
told
they
you.
were.
Yeah, we've seen the graphs. So,
Mm,
pretty much, I think the war of all the factions, these guys have just kind of been pissed off. Like,
yeah, I think they need to add Knights Chivalry to the Marquise de Cat and the Eerie.
I think they do too. But
Maybe,
I do think that I used to think that they were the Robin Hoods of River,
yeah, the
but
quote good guys.
with the new faction Knaves of the Deepwood, who are actually Robin Hoods. That is a way we could talk about Vagabond is through Knaves of the Deepwood because they are now a faction instead of just Vagabond. But
Instead of just a dude.
the new factions don't have a lot of lore. We can maybe cover them in like 10 minutes, all of them.
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah, they haven't got.
They'll get more lore soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, once they're released.
Yeah, but pretty much these are factions that are the people in the woodland who are just living there, and there are people who obviously live in the forests. It'd just be like the clearings are spots where denizens trade, where like I guess work would be if work is even in root, which probably is.
I
All that
mean,
stuff.
they can make like iron tools and
Yeah.
crossbows. So
I think they'd be like major cities or like villages, depending on like probably the more traveled through clearings are like cities, and like the corner clearings are probably like villages and stuff like that.
even though in the game the corner clearings are the most used, they're not the most traveled through, but they are the most used.
Yeah, but usually by like militant faction just invades and just sets up their own buildings there.
That is true.
That's true.
I am kind of surprised that they didn't. I mean, I understand why they didn't do this. It would make it too complex. But I think it would be nice if they had different um, like minifigures and slightly different stats depending on what clearing they came from. If they're box warriors compared to if they're
Oh
mice
yeah,
or
for
rabbit
Woodland
warriors, that
Alliance.
would be fun.
I mean, they don't even have the fox meeples. Like they have a spring uprising, which is the um, mercenaries or hirelings, and those are
Oh, the
bunnies.
hireling.
But yeah, it would be cool. We could probably use the spring uprising in games, but it's a bit too. We'd have to break out the other box.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that many boxes fit on your table nicely.
They don't. They already the four boxes still hang over.
Yeah, I know. I've knocked the one that I sit close to. I've knocked over one too many times.
Yeah. Something that I find kind of interesting about the Woodland Alliance are they're kind of like they have a network instead of being. I thought they'd be kind of ramshackled and stuff like that, kind of ragtag, but they actually have like leaders and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
their entire gameplay loop involves getting more officers.
yeah. And apparently
It's-
the networks are like spread out throughout the entire clearings, which is cool.
I'm not surprised. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like if you have all of your rebels in one spot, they're no longer rebels. They're now an army.
that's true. I mean, but their gameplay is kind of like
Their gameplay is let's be rebels. Okay, now we have an army.
and now we have a base. If you try and invade the base, we'll use our guerrilla warfare tactics to mess you up.
Yeah.
But they do have guerrilla warfare, which is interesting that no other faction has adapted for guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, no one has. I mean, it makes sense. They're locals. They know the area.
That's
They
true.
know the traps.
I would think that Corvids would have guerrilla warfare, but they have something similar. They have
Yeah.
embedded
Inside.
agents,
Yeah, embedded agent. That's what it's called.
which is they deal an extra hit. Maybe that's like a sniper on a roof or something, pulling a
Yeah, yeah.
John Wick.
Crossbowmen on the roof.
So that's cool. I think that's all the base game factions. That
I mean, other than the Vagabond, but we're saving them to the end. Don't worry, we haven't forgot about them. Vagabond
for
mains.
those of you who are have the Vagabond as their favorite class,
It's
those
just
few and far between, but they exist.
uh for your information, at our table, we only let players with under 4 games of root experience play the
That's not
Vagabond.
100% true, but
I
it's
mean,
mostly
it's a general rule of thumb.
true. Except for maybe Arjun, but
Yeah, but he has to start with like a 2-turn
that's
disadvantage.
true. He usually plays a
Lord
different
of
faction,
Hundreds
gets really angry because he's behind, almost gets table wiped, and then
often does.
plays Vagabond 2 turns behind and almost wins because Vagabond is crazy.
Yeah, it's I don't. He should just stop playing Lord of Hundreds. He knows he's getting board wiped.
Or just play them differently. Like Lord of Hundreds are
That's
good,
true.
but he just rushes in.
Yeah.
So should we move on to just maybe how about
Yeah.
the woodland at whole at like a whole?
Like the whole woodland?
Yeah, the whole woodland. What I'm seeing that's kind of weird is it hides dark deeds, ancient ruins, and dangerous creatures. The dangerous creatures is the part throwing me off.
Yeah,
Because
it's
aren't the
there's not
people
like there's a bear boss.
animals? Well, there is, but I think they'd be kind of like tame. And the next line is the land is not tame.
Yeah, they'd either be tame or they're gonna be sentient, like some of the other factions.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like the woodland is kind of like the forest in real life and all the like unknown lands
Mm.
and
And
the actual place that the denizens are are the places like clearings.
yeah, the
What's
clearings are where the civilized people
the
are.
civilized people? Yeah. Something kind of cool is that when the Eerie took over, they kind of just settled in the trees above the clearings,
Yeah, they were pretty chill.
kind of just to look down on everyone.
I mean, yeah, there's that. I mean, on the upside, they're not taking up any more like real estate space. So
That's
like,
true, but they're also like then they kind of took over the governments, which is funny.
I mean, yeah, and then they built their houses to literally look down on everyone
Yeah.
else.
And then eventually this led to the Grand Civil War. And it says only grand because it's the most recent, implying that there were other civil wars.
I'm not
And
surprised. The
because the
Eerie,
Eerie was the first like big faction according to the lore, which means that there's other Eerie civil wars.
I mean, I'm not surprised. It's probably every time
They
they
turn
fail
one.
their decree, they just have another civil war.
And then the cats just came in and did
Yeah,
whatever they wanted to.
they did cat things, industrialization.
What's funny is the cats are apparently a well trained militia, well trained, well equipped, but
Sure.
on the board, I feel like they're the weakest.
Their
Like,
starting position is definitely the weakest.
I feel like a well trained, well equipped army wouldn't do that.
Yeah, they wouldn't spread out so
Yeah,
they wouldn't spread out so much. Their lines are way too extended at the start of the
they
game.
have extended, but that's also because there's no faction to fight back against them.
That's true.
Yeah,
The Eerie are in chaos. They don't know
so
about the Woodland Alliance
yeah,
and
they
the
don't know about the
Vagabond.
plans. And the
They're
Vagabond,
chilling.
the whole thing about the Vagabond is they're trying to get famous no matter what.
Yeah,
They're trying to either help people in clearings, kill people
murder.
for infamy, or aid the factions to be like, I don't know, their council.
Yeah.
Yeah. But cats are just coming in. They're trying to take all the money, all the
All the
food,
money, all the natural
yeah, all the
resources,
natural resources. Kind of like if
all
some
the space.
and when this happened, the Eerie Dynasty were kind of like, you know what? Let's come back.
Yeah, these guys are worse than like our internal squabbles. So
And then because the two sides were battling, this is when the Woodland Alliance came in and was like, "Hey, why don't we do
both of
that?"
you are bad.
Yeah. So apparently, the Woodland Alliance calls this war the War for Freedom, but everyone else kind of just calls the war.
Yeah, it's just a war. It's not the war for freedom. It's just a war.
Yeah. Apparently, I think the bunnies and rabbits are the scouting force of the Woodland Alliance.
Oh, and then the foxes are the frontline infantry.
Apparently, the mice are the communications experts,
Not surprised.
and
Those massive ears.
the foxes are the like weapon stockpilers and stuff like that, which kind of reflects
Yeah.
the cards, because um, at least in the base deck, all of the like bunny clearings, mouse clearings, and fox clearing, all of those cards kind of correspond to that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, just shows that it's a well-crafted game.
It does. It shows that they've really thought about. And
Or we've done all of their work for them and just come up with random stuff that they didn't intend.
it
Who knows?
it fits either way. And apparently everyone knows about the Woodland Alliance except for the big armies. It's kind
Everyone,
of like,
every citizen is like, "Oh yeah, I give them some food if they stop by."
yeah, it's kind of like how when Batman first showed up in Gotham, the criminals thought Batman was kind of just a made up thing by the police to stop criminals from actually doing
And
crimes.
just the myth.
Until Batman actually showed up and started beating everyone up. So,
All right. Shall we move on to the expansions?
the expansion factions, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
We're
All
only
right.
half
Let's
an hour
start.
in, so
Only half an hour. Oh, we got time to burn.
we got time to spare. So, first up is the Riverfolk Company. In lore, they don't actually use people. So, we are kind of bursting the bubble letter table right now, but
It's funny. It's a very funny.
they actually use a note called the River Script, which is indicating that the Riverfolk owe a service to the holder of the River Script, which
So
is
it's like it's a banknote. It's an old
it's a
banknote.
banknote, but you can only use it with the Riverfolk. But the funny thing is, the Riverfolk have been around so long. Like, it's not like they just moved downstream. They've been in here for a while, actually.
Yeah, just chilling,
They've
doing
they've been in here
small
so long
jobs.
that the river script is just a general currency within the woodland, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's just oh yeah, this is to prove that you purchased something from us. Basically, it's a receipt.
No, it's like more like a coupon, I'd say.
Yeah. You buy a coupon and then you can reclaim it, and then everyone just kept using it.
Yeah,
I mean that mimics real life in
it
the
kind of
way that
does.
real life currency came into being.
One of the funny things is that Riverfolk Company, they apparently try and infiltrate governments and stuff with their traders so that the government like relies on them, and they'll try and get the Riverfolk at like high positional power within those governments, which is
You did
kind
that
of
one
funny.
time.
I have done that with the Riverfolk. For
Yeah,
example,
he
when the Eerie Dynasties ruled the Woodland, the Riverfolk
oh.
Company would come into the woodland and sell their stuff and move on to the next clearing. And then without the Riverfolk Company, the Erie would kind of like falter a bit. So the Riverfolk Company would come more and more and more and more
Oh.
and
Yeah,
stay just
he
a
did
little
it.
bit longer until they had enough influence over the Erie Dynasty.
He did it in a game
I have.
where
I
our Eerie
extorted
player
them.
had all of his roosts down, but he
Yeah.
had a place roost.
Yeah, and I
So
charged him a lot to do all that. Yeah. So they also don't generally rule clearings, which is kind of ironic to their in-game on how I play them, and most people online, from what I've seen, because
yeah, the Otterball.
the Otterball, they'll generally sell stuff and then buy it back to sell in another clearing for more profit, which is actually
I
hilarious.
mean, that's not too dissimilar to
Yeah,
what happens.
it is very interesting. They also apparently get trained in a variety of skills, including combat. And these aren't like
I think
the mercenaries, these are the merchants that get trained in combat.
I mean, considering how volatile the political situation of the Woodland is,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
The thing that does relate to the game of them giving people services for like an actual like token or figurine is that if someone doesn't have a river script to pay them for their services, they can actually work for the company to pay off a debt.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
huh. So they can work as traders to pay off their debt for trading, huh?
Yeah. But if they
Sounds
do use
very.
river script, they get a better price than if they work for
Oh,
them.
I'm
So
not
Riverfolk
surprised.
script is definitely encouraged.
This sounds like it gets very, very close to being a pyramid scheme. Not quite,
It's
but very close.
more like a half pyramid scheme. Kind of
Yeah,
falters out.
it's very close to a pyramid scheme.
And just of course, as I think most weapons traders and all that would do, only the war has only made their tradings even like more higher and stuff.
Oh yeah, particularly their mercenaries. Their mercenaries are in very high demand.
Yeah. They are more than happy to take advantage of the Woodland War, which is hilarious.
Like any good arms dealer.
Like any good arms dealer. During the war, they do actually take control of clearings, which is what we see in the game.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
that's accurate to what we see in the game, yeah.
Something kind of interesting is that most merchants won't actually work with each other. They'll like they work as like companies, but I think there are multiple Riverfolk companies, which
Huh.
is
You think some like they have one Riverfolk company that deals with the Marquise de Cat, one Riverfolk company that deals with the Woodland Alliance.
yeah, I think that's
Keep
what
them
happened.
separate.
And then when the war came, they all just fused together into one massive company.
I mean that makes sense. Now they're a super company.
Yeah.
Now they can actually start controlling clearings.
And each like otter, each riverfolk is a merchant who owns like a share in the company.
So okay, all right, okay. So that's like 20 something shares, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there are like 20 or 15. It's 20 or 15 uh riverfolk. Speaking of which, in Root there is only like it's a one for one scale. So,
Yeah, this is something that I just learned about, and it completely broke my brain, but also made so much sense.
yeah.
Because I'm used to playing other strategy games where it's like, okay, this one piece represents a platoon or a division size, so that'll be like 30 or 100 men,
Yeah, but this
but
is one for
one to
one,
one. But
which
it makes the Vagabond make so much more sense that he's
yeah.
not going around killing like 200 people.
I used to think
No, he's
Vagabond was
killing
like
three.
Kratos or something powered. It's not quite that strong, but still
Yeah,
kind of
he's
strong.
not that strong.
He's just an RPG character, you know?
Yeah, he's not a literal god.
Low level RPG character. Alright. Next up is the Lizard Cult,
Oh
the
no.
best faction,
Don't
the Lizard
this
religion.
yeah, there it is. This guy likes to try and convince you that it's not a cult. It's just
It's
a
not a cult.
religion, you see.
Y'all should join it. It's fun.
The cult?
The religion? Okay.
Ah, darn, couldn't get you on that one.
The best thing about the lizard religion that I learned pretty recently was that the lizard cult, I'm saying it because um
Everyone understands it if it's lizard cult.
yeah. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows that they worship the great dragon, the great worm, whatever you say.
Oh, oh, the end game. This is my favorite part as well.
What I think, what would you like to tell them about it?
Yes, yes, please, yes, please. Bryce explained this to me. What, month or two ago?
Yeah,
When they win, they just summon the dragon god. They summon their deity. That's how they win.
yeah,
Which I think that's incredible to just think, oh, there's this war. No, now there's a massive dragon god
yeah.
that
This is not
is
true,
doing
just in case y'all are
something.
gonna quote us on this. But it'd be fun.
Oh, the head canon. This is our table. You're welcome to steal any of our lore for your own table as well.
It's fun lore. So the
Uh,
lizard cult, they aren't a new thing in the woodland. They've been around for a while. They aren't from the woodland. They come from some desert, like miles away.
like where lizards usually live.
Yeah. But they do try and settle in one clearing, and then they just expand over and over with acolytes and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is something that Bryce tried to convince us was so dangerous. He conned us at our table for a while, and he won a lot of games as the lizard cult
Lizard
by
cult
conning us
used to be the
into
most powerful faction at our table just because no one knew how to counter them.
yeah, no one realized if his outcast isn't hated, he can't do very much with them. And
Times
if
have
you attack
changed.
him, he can't actually attack you back that much.
I used to stock up acolytes, so if someone attacked me, I'd whoop them and say,
Yeah, it
every time
was
you attack
like
me, I can do that. So they would just never attack me. But if as long as you don't outcast and just acknowledge that the first hit's gonna hurt, the rest are gonna be ours.
yeah.
Then it's not that bad, which is sad because I like winning as the lizard cult. But when a denizen, usually, actually most lizard cult members aren't seen. If you do see a lizard cult member, it's likely a missionary trying to tell you to join the lizard cult. So it's rare to find a clearing with a garden unless like the clearing is fully controlled by the lizard cult, which very much reflects in game because if a clearing does have a garden, it just has the lizard cult has rule over the entire clearing.
It's just theirs.
And the funniest thing about the lizard cult is the majority of them aren't even lizards anymore. Because the first few lizards that went into the lizard cult, that went into the woodland, that's the only lizards that have gone into the woodland. So the majority of them have just been woodland denizens that have been turned into the religion of the lizard cult. Or the cult of the lizard cult, as Luke, I think, would like to say.
Yeah, it's not a religion, guys. It's a cult.
Yeah,
As much as Bryce would like to try and convince you that it's a real religion,
it's a
no,
real
no, no. It's a cult, guys. Come on.
In fact, it says the lizard cult present in this. The lizard cult's presence in any clearing is anything but subtle. They try and among everyone they meet, they're like, "Join us, please."
I mean, I'm not surprised, particularly if you're trained in military techniques at all, because they really cannot fight.
They cannot fight.
Yeah,
But
if they stockpile their acolytes, the first hit's gonna hurt, but that's about it.
although they do the reason that they do place gardens around the entire map is so that when the great dragon, great worm comes to the woodland, it has like its natural environment, which kind of shows how messed up these gardens might be.
Yeah, if they have a dragon slash worm, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be their natural habitat.
And their whole goal is to basically turn the entire woodland into one massive garden.
I mean, just saying I want to turn the woodland into a massive garden isn't a terrible idea. But if you consider what's in these gardens,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Gardens are actually generally like different. The only thing that I think is the same per garden is that they all have a grand shrine to the Great Dragon.
I mean, how else are you gonna summon the great dragon without a bunch of shrines?
Yeah, how else? And the last thing about the Lizard Cult is the basic everyday members that you see are called Seekers, and these are the stuff you see at the festivals, services, charities, the stuff you see on the map, and all the behind the scenes and acolytes are different than the Seekers on the map, which is interesting.
And one more tidbit of table canon, head canon, whatever you want to call it. We have the when the Lizard Cult win, we have they successfully summoned their god.
They do, yeah.
And then it just does what it wants. It could kill everyone, like including the Lizard Cult.
It's
it
probably like the Gene Stealer cult in 40K, where they do the whole thing, they take over the entire government, and then the Tyranids rain down on them and just eat them all. Use them all as biomass.
Everyone dies.
Everyone dies. They call it Ascension.
Yeah, they just get turned into biomass.
Yeah. Another gamey thing, how you can sacrifice bird cards to have acolytes, is for a Lizard Cult member to become an acolyte, they have to sacrifice something.
Oh,
and then they join the inner circle of worship. It kind of sounds like Scientology, guys. Allegedly.
The inner circle.
We don't want to get kidnapped by the Scientology people.
Allegedly. Don't come after us, please. I said nothing. Please. I was but a bystander.
Don't come after me. Okay. So, the Grand Duchy.
Ah, yes. I have played these in more recent times.
So
I haven't won with them, though. So, do with that information what you will.
Indeed. I think the Duchy are pretty much the equivalent of Marquise de Cat.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
They have a massive army, like completely huge, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. They do have to convince their own government that the surface is worth it, though.
They do have to convince their own government that the surface is worth it. The funny thing is that because most of their government members don't go above the surface, like above ground, they have to promise woodland denizens, like the everyday man, that they can get high, powerful government jobs. So most of the people in power don't have real power, but they have a kind of a title in the Duchy hierarchy. And when the Duchy do win the war, they kick out all the woodland people and replace them with actually Duchy people.
I mean, it's very selfish, but like...
Nice. The Duchy pretend to be the nicest people you'll ever meet. When in reality, you'll find them trying to smuggle goods between clearings using tunnels. They'll try and use propaganda to control people. They'll kind of use all of their government denizens that they're controlling, like as puppets and stuff, until it's the time to strike and just replace all of them with real Duchy.
Real moles.
Real moles.
I mean, surely some of the like squires go above ground though. Like the formal has to go above ground.
All of the
How
people
else is he gonna build anything
in game? Those are people who have gone above ground, but the majority of the Duchy leadership is still below ground.
I mean,
what's scary is there's stuff above like lords. They're already too strong.
They have to nerf them somehow.
Eventually, as the course of the war goes on, the Duchy get more and more and more violent. They'll start initiating more siege battles, more breaking down doors and entering households. But at the very start, they're very nice. It promises to be a stable government, a place for all denizens, a chance for anyone to become a leader.
That's pretty accurate to how they play.
They don't think at all that they can deliver on any of these promises, except for actual moles and Duchy citizens.
The key takeaway here is everybody in Root is very selfish.
Everyone in Root, even the quote unquote good guys, are still extremely selfish.
Yeah, even
Woodland Alliance.
the Woodland Alliance only care about the mice, rabbit, and foxes.
Yeah. Should we cover each and every duchy each and every member of the duchy parliament?
Oh, each and every member of the Duchy Parliament, or the ones that you can like recruit in
The
game?
ones that you can play in game that we know about.
Oh,
So we've got
I'd have to search those up real quick. I don't have those ready.
yeah. I can explain them before we move into the lore. We have the formal, the captains, the marshals, the bankers, the mayors, and then we have the Duchess of Mud, Baron of Dirt, Earl of Stone, and my favorite member of the Parliament, the Brigadier. He is so good.
All right, all right.
And every single one of these members, there's not just one of them. Just the people that you can get in game are the woodland characters that have been replaced by Duchy. So there might be multiple mayors and multiple like bankers and all that stuff. They just haven't been replaced by Duchy yet. So they're just normal denizens of the woodland. The only big part that consists of a lot of members of parliament are the uh, like fighters, which are the captains, the marshals, and the brigadiers. Those are the people in control of the militant army.
Yeah, are they there? Are the I forget. Are the moles technically considered? They're militant, right?
They are a militant faction.
Okay, all right. Because they definitely should be. That's
Yeah.
how they're played.
And I think we'll end it off with Duchess of Mud, Baron of Dirt, and Earl of Stone, and we'll just finish it up for today because we're reaching the hour mark.
The hour mark for the podcast.
We are really reaching the hour mark. We're at 50 minutes.
Oh, and we still have to touch upon the Vagabond. All right. We can fit it in. We can fit it in.
Okay. So we'll do Corvin Conspiracy and all the new factions and Marauders next time, if we do a
next episode.
So, the Duchess of Mud oversees the duchy's territory and tunnels. She makes, like, pretty much every time the duchy do smuggling and all of that through those tunnels, the Duchess of Mud is the person overseeing all of that.
Some muddy work.
Yeah.
I'm not that funny.
The Duchess, pretty much, all of the, every single one of the parliament, they're just there to make money. Like,
I mean, yeah.
The Duchess,
that kind of
makes
sense.
She names all the tunnels after her.
Well, one of them's first name, one of them's middle name, one of them's last name.
Yeah. And every single thing smuggled through those tunnels, a portion of that money is paid to her.
To keep the tunnels open.
Just to keep the tunnels open. She doesn't even, like, mind them or anything. She's just, like, is in charge of logistics.
The tunnel tax.
Then we have the Baron of Dirt. The Baron of Dirt, he pretty much acts as... You have all the bankers that make money for the duchy, and then you have the Baron of Dirt, who's in charge of all the markets and everything like that in the duchy.
All the money making that's not smuggling or war.
So he's always drilling the parliament. He's like, we have to make more money, all that stuff. And he is thoroughly convinced that they will turn a profit by next year, because right now they are not turning a profit.
I mean, somehow we convince him that, yeah, the profit will be turned.
Losing money. And the Earl of Stone is in charge of strongholds, the military, and conflict. So when they go to war, the Earl of Stone is the one in charge of all those logistics.
He's the commander-in-chief over the brigadier and the marshal and captain.
He's apparently the most cautious about where to send the duchy troops. And
somehow we still convince him that the surface is a good idea?
He does, but he does take a lot of normal bribes and political sway.
I mean, bribery's just good business.
He will sell, like, opposition the plans of troop movement and resources because he is that corrupt.
That's one corrupt military commander.
But
I
to
would
do,
not feel confident.
he is not very, he doesn't do things quickly. He needs bribes, political sway, and the detailed plans before he is going to do any actions. Which is
I
why you
mean,
can recruit him such like a late part in the game.
yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten to the point where I have. Actually, no, I think
No,
once.
because you
I
just have
think
to get
once.
a lord out, and that's him. But he definitely requires a lot of. All right, and then finally we have the Vagabonds. Would you like to talk about the Vagabonds?
The Vagabond. Sure, we basically consider the Vagabond to be the equivalent of one of our D&D characters. He's
Yeah,
just a blank slate. He's trying to get famous however he can. You get
they're
to pick who gets
yeah.
famous.
Vagabonds. There's multiple of them in the woodland, and they're just all adventurers. They some do it for fame, some do it for money, some do it literally just for fun. But what they all do is they're part of their own faction, and they don't listen to anyone else unless they're paid to do it.
I mean, I'm surprised you called them a faction. You always like to harp
Yeah,
on about how they're not a true faction. They're just some dude.
they are just some dudes. So
They are getting a real
they
faction
are
though.
getting a real
That'll
faction, Knaves of the Deepwood. I gotta print them out. My printer ran out of ink, sadly. So that's it for
uh
today. I
yeah,
hope the
that's it for
first
this episode,
episode
I
of
think.
the podcast was acceptable. Part
Yeah. I
two,
hope it was to your liking.
yeah, part two will come around. So
Hopefully pretty soon.
hopefully pretty soon. Depends how much I can edit this.
Yeah, how quickly are you gonna edit this, Bryce?
Maybe a week. Maybe a week. Yeah. Hopefully it comes out early December. Before December like 10th.
Watch it come out next year.
If it comes out 2025, I think I've failed you. There won't be a second episode if it comes out 2025.
If it comes out 2025, I'm taking over editing duties.
All right. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed this and see.
Hope you all enjoyed just two
Chilling.
friends ranting.
Yeah. Later.